In a recent video, I boldly asserted that leftists will respond to criticisms about what they're on about with the assertion, yeah, we're evil. We're just going to do whatever we want to assert our freedom, because that's our operating principle in life, that we're just completely free. We just don't care what you think. You can call us any name you like. We're just gonna keep on going on, bulldozing through, and just being what we want to be, all in the name of some high-sounding principles of creating a better world and high-sounding rhetoric. So we're just going to keep on asserting whatever we want, just to prove how smart, strong, and sexy we are. That is, that they arrogantly wear any kind of rebuttal you'll throw up to them and still keeping on in their self-confident program of self-assertion. And a classic example of this is how they always assert the principle of rights. Everybody, all the victim groups that they champion in their own cause of self-assertionism and self-fulfillment and self-realisation, all the victim groups are spoken of as our rights. Doesn't matter what victim group it is, women's rights, black rights, the rights of asylum seekers. And in opposing the left, one group in particular, which was the anti-abortion movement, deliberately chose the language of rights to counter and fend off the left. And that was the right to life movement in Australia. At any rate, I don't know whether this movement goes by this name in other places. And the left, predictably and arrogantly, just ignores this. And my approach is always to say that I don't care what rights you assert as a leftist. If you can't take on board the right to be born, the right to life, I'm not listening to you about rights until you can acknowledge that right and take that on board and give some kind of coherent response to that. I'm not going to listen to your assertion of all the spurious rights you otherwise discuss in relation to other groups. When you acknowledge something so basic as the right to life, I will listen to you about anything you're on about. But of course, they don't bother to do that. I've never heard a leftist in any way take on board the principle of the right to life and give some sort of cogent response to this, other than to just sidestep the issue and just keep going on with their ideology of assertionism, bludgeoning people over their heads with this ideological sloganeering and bulldozing their program of what they call social liberation and I would call moral anarchy, whose only real result is to create a society of moral confusion which lacks the sort of moral foundations and moral fibre to resist, or even know how to resist, the blandishments of the left, the assertions of the left. And that is what I am doing constantly in these videos, trying to uncover the true motivations of leftist progressivist machinations, so that people can at least understand the mechanics, if nothing else, the mechanics of what's going on, and deal with it in some way or other, instead of just lying down and bending over and letting it all happen. And a great starting point would be to say, I'm not going to listen to anything you say about rights until you acknowledge the right to life and the right to be born, and then we will have a discussion about something. Until then, forget it. And just a parting thought, the left has always been caught out engaging in incoherent argumentation and being proved wrong about lots of things, of course, but they've always fended this off with some kind of effort to, a fig leaf of justification and rebuttal. But in more recent times, they're now caught out making complete asses of themselves in situations where they don't seem to feel that they need to even explain themselves, such as the Elizabeth Warren debacle, and more recently the Covington Catholic boys incident. This last controversy is interesting not only because the left was caught out just completely lying in their initial presentation of the events that occurred, but also because a lot of the commentary on this episode involved actual threats of violence by leftists against these boys, and who are now taking legal action. Of course, none of these people were banned by Twitter or whatever, or deplatformed or anything like this, as has happened in the case of conservative commentators who have made very, very mild statements. Nothing that's overtly threatening to anyone. I mean, alleged threats of violence. But of course the left gets off scot-free with this, but now many of these people are facing prosecution or litigation at any rate. It will be very interesting to see how that plays out. That's all for now.